Okay. Um. Uh. Um. Remember. Remember when I told y'all that like I really don't want to shit on any movies. And for those of you who are new, welcome to Adam and Chase podcast. I'm about to go against the cardinal sin, I guess, of this podcast, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna shit on a movie, and I'm not gonna do it in a way that is like, like, oh, I'm trying to be a serious, fucking critic here about paranormal activity, which is like whatever. I honestly I didn't even take these films seriously. I mean, for God's sakes, I had it playing in the background while I was doing laundry. Um, but this was like the last two movies. Like the marked ones was like the first time that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna sit down and I'm just gonna watch this movie, right? Um, this film, The Ghost Dimension, just straight up like it completely undid everything that Paranormal Activity set itself up for to be like a fun time at the movies, like a fun time watching it. Like any other 80s slasher film or any like supernatural, like, whatever, right? Like, or any like horror film, even in the 90s, that was like so chaotic and so frenetic, with like, horrible, well, not horrible, but like crazy dated music, that plays in some of those like horror films. And I don't know if this film was trying to be serious for serious' sake, or if it was just trying to just say, fuck it, dude. We don't care. We don't know. And that's the conundrum I'm dealing with in Paranormal Activity: The Ghost Dimension. So this is the sixth film, apparently. I was wrong. It's not the fifth. It is a sixth because the fifth was a marked ones, and Paranormal 4 was just what it is. Um, boy, oh boy. Oh God, where do I even begin? I don't. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned anything about Paranormal Activity 5, which was the marked ones, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting concept to diverge from the original storyline of Christy and Katie. Even though they kind of button that in the end, which I thought the ending was fantastic and exploring like other dimensions essentially that can have a cascading effect on you know on the supernatural ways, right? And I'm on board. I'm on board with that. Okay, and they basically said, well, we want to kind of do that in the ghost dimension, but we're gonna do it where it goes against every single rule that we set up uh, paranormal activity to have. You know what I mean? So it's like we establish all these rules. We know the rules. We know that like all the disturbances doesn't need to always be explained, and there doesn't need to be. I mean, there is investigation, but it only stretches so far before you just go into this weird long like diatribe of like what demonic possessions really look like. And oh, there's different demons, and this demon wants to be in a human form. Like the the ambiguity of the Paranormal Activity series is what makes it so interesting and so fascinating, is because it's simple. It's not trying to convince you of anything. It's trying to tell you that this shit is going down. Things are getting fucked up, and these people are absolutely going to get fucked up. You know what I mean? They did that with the first Paranormal all the way through the fifth, and then this one was like, no, we are going to address every little fucking thing. We're going to materialize the demon who we know as Toby, and we're going to completely unwind the previous 3 films. Maybe not all the films. It was like the third one for sure was just like they were trying to recontextualize the whole thing of like when the house is supposed to be. Oh, okay. I have so many thoughts. so let's just start from the beginning. It's going to be spoiler free review for now, and then in the latter half of this ep we're gonna get into spoilers. But my experience with this film is fascinating to say the least. So essentially, for the non-spoiler folks, this is a story of a brand new family who stumbles upon a box of tapes and an old video camera that we are led to believe that it was from the third film, from Katie and Chrissy's mom's boyfriend, who I don't remember the name of, but essentially they left behind those tapes and that video camera, which I thought went with the demon, because like I remembered watching that like at the end of the third film that they kind of concluded that like the tapes and the box went like missing and shit like that, but then it was like ended up in the same house that they are living. It's just, it gets so convoluted, and I know I'm overthinking it, and I know there's probably people who are like, this guy is taking this shit way too seriously. The thing is that if you establish rules and you establish these things in these films, you kind of, it's not like you can't break these rules. So if you break the rules, that's fine, but have a reason and have an have a full I don't know, like have it pay off in the end, essentially. Don't just have it where it's like, yeah, we're just going to materialize Toby. Okay, why? Well, we just want to materialize him. And that's just like one aspect of it, right? So the film does not in any way have real like any connective tissue to the other films. I mean, not really, because they kind of just show you what transpired in the third film anyways. So yeah, I think overall the story, the story essentially, they find these box of tapes, they found the video camera, and the shit gets fucking wild, right? And then so it's up to the dad in this new family to essentially work backwards from what we already knew from Paranormal Activity 3. And that was kind of the thing that rubbed me the wrong way, was that, okay, if we're going to do a new family, do it completely clean slate. Completely clean slate. Do this in a very different, very unique way. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're going to like reboot the franchise. This came out in 2011, I think, or 2015. Hold on. I think this came out in 2015, yeah. So, essentially it was like one of these situations where you go, okay, well, reboots exist around this time, so why wouldn't you just reboot the franchise? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's just start anew again, which is whatever, right? It's like, these films are fun. I know there's probably some who, clutch their pearls and like, say that like, oh, this is the way that Paranormal Activity needs to be and shit like that. And I'm trying not to take it as serious as I want to, but I can't help but to point out so many things about this film that just completely rubs me the wrong way. Story-wise, acting-wise, fucking filming-wise, direction-wise, everything-wise, this is fucking bonkers to me, and I want to talk about it. So, for the non-spoily people, I'll wrap this up by saying that the film does go off the rails, but not in the way that you think it does, and it's not a compliment in any way. Now, if you enjoyed this film, if you think that the film is very enjoyable and it's fun and whatever, that's great. I think that's fine. I just cannot, for the life of me, attain anything from this story whatsoever, because there was nothing to take from. You know, even as like a fun little horror. I mean, like Friday the 13th is just like a fun slasher film, but at least like there are certain parts of it that come as like a payoff. You know, like there's some setup and then there's a little bit of payoff. There was none of that in this film at all. So we're gonna get into the spoiler shit, y'all. So yeah, okay. So I have thoughts. I have notes. I took the entire morning to while I was working, by the way, to just like jot down in between work to have these, because like it's just been swimming in my brain. So oh fuck, where do I begin? Okay, so yeah, I see what the film was trying to do, especially in the beginning of this thing, where they're kind of like setting up, you know, the new family, but also like this kind of comedic relief to it. By the way, I did not know that this film was filmed in 3D until like halfway through the film, because there were moments in this film where I just felt like I was like, wait, what? Like, why does this shit look like that? And when you watch the film, you would absolutely understand what I'm talking about. It's filmed in a way where I don't know if it's like specific. I never worked with 3D cameras in the film industry. I've worked with 360 cameras, or at least one 360 camera, like in terms of production, but I never worked with any 3D cameras before at all. I mean, I'm not part of the camera department. I'm art department, but you know what I mean. It's like you would notice these cameras right the fuck away. And I don't know if I'm just stupid, where they just film it like, you know, with a regular ass like Red or Sony or Ari Alexa, you know, shooting it just regularly, and then in post they kind of, but it didn't feel that way. Like how it was shot and how it was directed felt like, I don't know, it felt like the entire frame was sort of disjointed. Sort of like, I guess, Saw 3D, which was Saw 7 or something like that. Yeah, I think it was like Saw 7, where it was just 3D. And you can tell it was shot for 3D. And this film, you could tell it was shot for 3D, but it didn't have like a lot of the 3D gimmicks until like the last like 30 to 40 minutes. Which, I mean, I'm so glad that we live in a world now where 3D shit is like kind of like people just take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like the only film that does its justice for 3D is probably Avatar, which is fair and understandable. You know, that film is, I get, like it's set up to be experienced in 3D. You know, despite, you know, my subtle qualms about the films, you know, I can tell that it's, you know, the direction was literally set up to be three-dimensional. At least that was explained by James Cameron. I feel like with this film, it was like 3D was sort of like an afterthought. It was like, oh yeah, I guess add like a crazy effect. We're gonna zoom in on a face, and then the face is gonna appear as a jump scare, and then 3D. Where, you know, I'm glad I'm glad now that as an audience, as a collective whole, we're just like indifferent when it comes to it, and most are just like, I'm not gonna spend an extra, $10-15 to see a movie in 3D when I could just watch it 2-dimensional, still get the same experience. And you don't really need the 3D experience in order to like be invested with the story, because it's just a gimmick. That's just what it is. Like, I'm sorry if I'm shitting on any, 3D stands here, but like, it's a fucking gimmick. It's just a gimmick. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know the attraction to it, because like when I think of 3D, I think of like the like the attractions in Universal or Disney, where you get the Terminator 3D experience, and then you get the Muppet 3D experience and shit like that. Like, that's fine. It's like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever the fuck, and you just it's a whole ass experience, right? So fine, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But when you bring it into the world of I was gonna say cinema, because none of it, I'm sorry, is cinema. But when you bring it in the world of film, you ultimately just sort of regress the whole idea of why film exists in the first place and why it's like the purest form of art, at least in my opinion, because it's the first thing that like tackles all of your senses except for taste, of course. Although, I'm sure you can probably taste a lot of movies. You can probably taste the air of a movie theater sometimes, but that's neither here nor there. My thing is that like when it comes to film, the story and how it's set up is the biggest part of like the pie chart, and then the little tiny parts, like the cinematography, the set design, the costumes, makeup, acting, all these things are just, I don't want to say they're secondary, but they are part of the larger whole, right? So they are just these pieces that are part of the larger whole, where the story and the script is the biggest piece of it. It's the biggest portion. Now, in terms of this fucking movie, it completely went against all of that, right? And I've gotten to the point where I'd rather have a script, or maybe there was a script written for this film. I didn't see any BTS for this, and I didn't want to waste my time with like trivia and all that. But I don't know if there was like, I mean, I'm sure there was a script, but like, I don't know if it was in the same vein of like the other previous paranormal films, where it's like, okay, here's the setup. Y'all do whatever the fuck you got to do, but you're going to hear this noise, and then you're going to check it out, and then boom, jump scare, whatever, right? This film, it felt like all of the dialogue and the direction was so fucking shoehorned and forced and such an afterthought that it took no consideration to really limit the over exposition of things that are so completely unnecessary, right? Like in the first film, right? Like there would be moments where like, Mika and Katie would hear something, they'd be like, oh, that's crazy. And then Mika would like make a joke or something like that. Or, they, right before, they get to bed, they're going to film a sex tape. And then, Katie was like, go fuck yourself, shut that shit off. And then, brings it back again. There's like comedic relief like that. That is like, it's charming, right? It's charming for what it is. Does it still work? I don't know, but it's fun, whatever, right? Who cares? Then with this film, it's like, oh, we're going to do even more comedy than that. We're going to do all of the fucking comedy. And in fact, everybody is going to try to be funny. All the characters are going to try to be funny. And it doesn't even matter how you fucking deliver it. It's just going to be. You're going to say a joke, and you know what I mean? I it's so hard to explain because I'm so frustrated when it comes to films like these that just try their absolute best to make sure, oh, we're going to have all the comedic elements that we possibly can. You know what I mean? Like, comedic relief is really subjugated to like one character or like maybe a couple of characters, and you got to move the story along. They try to Quentin Tarantino this shit and try to make like random ass dialogue of other shit that pertains nothing to this film whatsoever, and try to act like as if, you know, oh, this is comedy fucking gold. We're making this shit happen. And it's like, I understand where they are trying to come from, but ultimately it stick with what you know. And that was the biggest lesson that I took from all of this, is that when you make a horror film, or when you watch a horror film, of course you want to have a good time with this, but like, it's way more investing and way more interesting and way more engaging when you have rules, there's setups, there's payoffs, and you have an evil entity, a being, an antagonist, whatever, that remains the thing that it always is, right? And so when it came to, and I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, it's just like, these are my thoughts that just like come to my head. So when you have a film like this where the setup is essentially like, oh yeah, we found this camera and it has a whole bunch of like scary, creepy shit. At first I was like, okay, I'm on board. Let's go. You know, let's see them unfold this, play like gumshoe detective thing. I thought that's what's going to be, is going to be like a detective story where it's just like, they're going to try to work backwards with all of the events of the third Paranormal to the second and then the first, and, you know, maybe even throw in like, you know, the Latino family. I forgot their names, but like, they were great in the fourth or fifth Paranormal Activity. Maybe they get lumped in somewhere around all of this, right? You know, about the coven who lived down, you know, below them and shit like that, right? And that's the other part too, is that the previous Paranormal Activity had the good comedic moments, like in the first 10 minutes it's like first like, I mean, it's somewhere in the first act where they film, they hear the coven that is just like right below their apartment, and then they fish a camera through the vents, and they show like, you know, these naked women, you know, painting symbols on themselves, you know, for the coven. But like, there was also comedic moments in that paid off completely well. That was so great, you know? But with this, it was like, oh, every single scene, we got to make sure we add a joke all the time, no matter what. You know what I mean? The whole idea of less is more went out the fucking window for this film. They're just like, no. More is just absolutely better. We want to have jokes all over the fucking place. And it drove me nuts. It drove me nuts. And I couldn't, like, every single joke that happened, I was just like rolling my eyes wasn't enough. I wanted to roll my fucking spine like a goddamn sleeping bag. Like, it was just so fucking cringe. It was unbelievable. And I didn't understand why we had to have this plot where it's set up kind of for success to be like, okay, we're gonna do this detective story, and then it unfolded to, oh yeah, Toby exists, but we're gonna have this thing where we can only see Toby in one specific camera, which is like the 80s camera that they found from the third film. And that's the only way we can see Toby. Whereas all the other cameras are just going to be the way that it is. I get it, right? Oh, well, this camera is special. It goes into the ghost dimension. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, sure. But if you were going to materialize a demon like Toby, you just completely canceled any and all forms of credibility to how scary these entities like this exist. And the reason why the first through the third and even the fourth and the marked ones did very well was that they're not going to show you that. They're not going to show you who Toby is. They just want you to know he's there. You know what I mean? And like you can't see it, but that's why like it was so unsettling even in the first film when like Katie would just stay in one place, call Mika's name, and then it was like, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" It's like, "No, what the fuck are you seeing?" And it's just like wind would blow like against her hair, and then you're like, "Oh fuck, what the fuck? Where is this coming from?" You know what I mean? And it's exciting. Like that's very fucking exciting. Like that shit is awesome when the ambiguity, the mysteriousness behind it remains mysterious, you know? And it didn't do any of that. It was just like, no, we're going to show you Toby. And in fact, Toby wants to be a humanoid. What? Yeah, Toby wants to be a humanoid. And you can only do that by way of these, I don't even fucking know. It was like the I guess like the girls, Katie and Chrissy were the only ones that could bridge Toby to that dimension because they needed the little girl to open it on the other side, I guess. And then Toby helps her out doing that. So then once I forgot the little girl's name, Layla, I guess, got possessed or could see Toby, went and marked the wall and permeated it through the fucking, ghost dimension, and I guess got to Katie and Christy, so that once all three of them were together, that's when Toby can finally become a humanoid, essentially. Which I'm just like, I don't know. It's just like the whole setup for it being, like this detective story of like, okay, we're either going to get to the bottom of the mystery of how their house was burned down, which we still don't know, by the way. Other than that, like, no, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know how that house was burned down in the third film. So we didn't know how the house was burned down in the third film. They get all these tapes that were from the third film along with the camera. And then they found out that, oh, the house we are living in is built on top of the burned down house of the third film. And it's like, look, there's a little concrete stone that has, the little girl's like handprints on it and stuff like that. And you go, okay, what the fuck happened to the house? What happened? Why did it happen? That's it. Like, it's just, there were these little simple questions that the audience probably had, at least I had them, and it never answered any of them. And I understand it's like, well, Adam, like so many horror films just do that anyway, so what makes this any different? What makes this different so much is that you already had these established rules, and all the other films followed those rules until the rules don't longer apply to them, right? So once the rules don't apply, then they can just break them, but only for a good reason, though, right? Whereas it's like, if you have a family and a coven, then Toby must fucking follow, right? It wasn't like that in the marked ones. The marked ones just had the demon entity went into the firstborn, but it didn't necessarily show Toby in any way or say that like, oh, Toby's here or whatever the fuck, right? They just the kid was possessed, and he followed he followed whatever guide he got from whatever demon he contracted from, and then his friend tried to help him out when it was already too late. And he had like, the super strength shit and whatnot. Like the kid who was possessed like had super strength. It felt like Chronicle. It felt like a horror version of Chronicle in a way. If y'all haven't seen it, it's not bad. It's okay. It's fine. I kind of liked it. But with that film, it still had its own rules and it still abided by them, like I said, until it no longer applied. So when it didn't need to apply, and then once, we get to the final act of this film and we go, where the fuck do you go from here? They then do the payoff that was already foreshadowed. You know what I mean? The foreshadowing of going into another dimension. They mentioned it in like those previous film or that previous movie by way of like scripture and like breaking into the Coven's apartment below them, and stealing scripture and like reading about it. And then finally in the third act, we see that all pay off in the end. You know what I mean? By the dude, his friend holding the camera, going into the closet, falling down, going into the other dimension, and it's Mika and Katie's house from the first film. And I was like, fucking beautiful. Beautiful. Very, very good. Very good. Very exciting. Very awesome. I love that. And it was a different perspective than what we saw in the first film. Right? Because the camera, it was only one camera and it was set up, to be on the second floor. We never see anything on the first, right? So I was like, fucking great. That's awesome. Here in Ghost Dimension, it didn't do any of that. It's like, yeah, there's another dimension. Why? I don't know. It's another dimension. Toby told her to do it, and that's it. It was like, oh, okay. Was there a reason for it? I mean, he wants to become a humanoid. Okay. Why? What? Why? Toby was already powerful as it is. The demon is the fucking demon. The demon can do whatever the fuck it wants to do. You know what I mean? Which is why, like, I kind of forgave the reason why, like, we don't know why the house burned down. It's like, well, does a demon have to explain themselves why they possess in the first place? They just fucking do. So if the house burns down, the house fucking burns down. Who cares? Don't take it seriously. Fine. But when you have all this set up and we have this whole thing of like, oh, we're in the same house. We're on the same house that where it was built on, When it burned down, they rebuilt it, and then this is the house now, And it's like, okay, like all that explanation, fine, but like we still don't understand why Toby needs to be materialized, And it felt like it was trying to be like a survival horror game, but like with none of like the cool story points, you know what I mean? Like none of the lore that you kind of can get behind, or maybe not get behind. And it's just like, all right, whatever. It's just like schlocky kind of, B movie kind of slasher shit, which is whatever, fine, like, I like trauma films and, Toxic Avenger and all that. Like, it's not necessarily meant to be serious. Fine. But again, I have to say, you're only hurting yourself if you have this whole ass fucking story that was set up to be a pretty big payoff, only for the payoff to be that Toby materialized and the demon exists and that's it. Whether or not it had any relevance to this new family didn't fucking matter at all. Like none of it fucking mattered. None of it mattered. None of it mattered. And it blew my mind how I don't know if it was a direction thing or what, or like they didn't have enough time or something. But like, my God. My God. It was like every movie, which was so jarring for me because it was like, and I guess the reason why, okay, well, let me explain myself. So when I watch all these films through and through, like the Marked Ones was the first movie that I sat down and I was like, I gotta watch this from beginning to end. And it didn't disappoint. It was still fun. It was goofy in so many ways, right? It was very goofy in so many ways, but the charm of it was because they were natural and they just talked like as if they were just a normal ass family. In this film, it was like whatever, if they had a script, it was not good because every single delivery was super fucking flat, and every single time there was an exposition or like something was trying to be explained, they explain it in a way that felt like they just somehow got a degree in demonology and then they were just able to pick this shit up immediately. Where it's like, I believe it if they picked it up by just like little pieces alone and they Google the rest of it, you know? And they just go, yeah, I think this is what this demon is, but I don't know. You know, or like, we don't know what this connection is, but clearly these girls have something to do with all of this. You know, these tapes, this video camera clearly has something to do with all of this, right? And then you kind of destroyed the purpose of all that when you have Toby just straight up fucking there, you know? But then you needed the camera because, oh, well, you can see Toby. It's like, why? I didn't need to see him. He was already fucking terrifying. I don't know why I call him he. I just took the liberty of gendering this motherfucker. The entity, or sorry, the demon didn't need to have a voice or have anything. It's just the presence alone with that eerie hum that you hear in the beginning of every single, you know, Paranormal Activity, or like when the demon is in the room or in the environment, you hear that subtle low hum, you know? That's all you fucking need, bro. That's all you need. That's literally all you need. And it's the most simple shit that gets the fucking point across. That's what makes horror films so great. You know what I mean? And the lore just adds on top of that. Now, the lore can really make or break the fucking movie because you can over-explain like what this film did, and it kind of loses that magic touch to it. Or you could be the first Paranormal Activity where it's like, no, there's still going to be a ton of ambiguity that some of the questions were answered in the second film, but it wasn't necessary, right? And it didn't destroy the story, nor did it really like improve it in so much, because the third act was still the third act. It was still kind of was its own film by its own merits. And it still had that delivery while still scaring the shit out of you and also having a payoff in the end, you know? Especially if you watch the first film, but even if you didn't, it's like you can pick up the pieces. It's not that hard, you know? So yeah, this film just did none of that shit at all. It just fucking blew my mind how they just worked completely against it. And I don't know if they thought that 3D was going to be its saving grace. It was not. It was just fucking bad. It was just not fucking good at all. And like I said, I don't want to shit on a film for the sake of shitting on a film. But when I had this journey already with these movies, it felt like this movie purposefully gave me the middle finger and told me to go fuck myself because I'm wasting my time. And the film is wasting my time. And, you know, but that doesn't matter, right? Because I will watch any and all fucking movies. So that doesn't matter. But, like, if I were to explain this to somebody like a friend of mine who's never seen this film and is interested in the Paranormal, you know, Activity film series, it would be hard for me to explain this. It would just be like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like they found these tapes and Toby materializes with this ghost camera, and they go into a different dimension because Toby wants to be a human. What? It's like why not just focus on the fucking family? Why not focus on the core family and bring in all the Christy and Katie shit from the third film as like a cherry on top, or like, side dishes? You got your fucking burger, which is the main plot of the film. The fries is all the other Easter eggs that you can bring in, and you can probably web it all and make it all connect. That's fine. That's cool. But like, you didn't need to do that. And the films didn't even try to fucking do that. Mark ones didn't try to do that. The last film didn't try to do that. They were just like, no, this is a totally different ass family, but there is going to be connections to all this shit. You know what I mean? We're going to see newspaper clippings. We're going to see the coven. We're going to see all of the scripture and the symbols that we've seen in the previous fucking movies. And it's like, I like that shit. Okay, I'm on board. Let's fucking go. And then this film is like, no. This is going to tie it all together and watch. And it's like, it did none of that. It did none of that, and it didn't even try to do anything other than just like be a movie that goes against its own plot by having these tapes as like the answer to what the fuck was going on, without fully explaining what the fuck this other dimension is. None of these tapes explain any of it. If it did, let me know. Because I guess I'm an idiot and I just completely fucking... I was just, fucking in awe of how crazy in so many directions this film took in none of the satisfying ways at all. None of it was at all relieving or satisfying or had an end that was like, okay, whatever. Joker 2 had an end. It's not a great film. Had an end, though. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these films doesn't necessarily have to be bad for being bad's sake. It's just, it needs to be a movie that has its setup and knockouts, and the story matters within that. And as long as you have that story, you can connect it, then it's good. Then people can get behind this shit, right? Not make it super convoluted and complicated, which is exactly what this film fucking did. They made this whole demonology shit way more complicated than it should be, when all you just had to do was just fucking follow the tapes. That's it. Then this fucking dad had to like bring in fucking books and shit and do all this extracurricular activities to get to the bottom of what the fuck is going on with this other camera and shit. You know what I mean? It just didn't hit as hard as it was supposed to. Now, if y'all liked it, I'm glad you did. If you didn't like it, what didn't you like about it? And if you did like it, what did you like about it? Like, what is it? I'm missing something. And I need to know. And, yeah, I don't know. Oh, and also too, like the first part of the film, like it picks up where 3 left off, which was fine. Which, by the way, I hope somebody can tell me, and I haven't done any research on this, so maybe I will do that after. But like, I don't know if they had to reshoot some of those scenes in the third film, because it definitely felt like it was different in so many ways. But that's neither here nor there. I think the thing that stood out to me the most was this ponytail wearing fucking dude who just shows up out of nowhere after the events of what happened in the third film. And this is in the beginning of this film, by the way, of Ghost Dimension. So when they go through all of this, all the events, they then go upstairs and they find this ponytail wearing motherfucker who's being like, hey, guys, talking to both Christy and Katie, going like, hey, I know about the demon. I know you're seeing things, but I'm gonna teach y'all how to channel it, control it, or whatever. I don't know. The point is that like this ponytail dude was just kind of shoehorned into all of this shit, and there was no explanation of how the fuck this guy got here or anything like that. Every single other Paranormal Activity film, if you watch it up until this point, set up every single fucking character and tells you exactly who they are without actually telling you who exactly they are. You know what I mean? Like halfway through the film, I didn't even know the two main dudes of this film were brothers. Made no mention of that. No mention of that. And maybe they did, and maybe I missed it, but like they made no mention of it until like halfway through when they said that like or they were reviewing the tapes and Katie saw, them in another dimension and was explaining like all the things that is currently happening in their house. And then Katie was like, I see brothers. And it was like the two fucking dudes standing there. And then I go, oh shit, they're brothers? And we were already like 70 minutes into the fucking movie. Like we only had like 20, maybe 30 minutes left. And this is new information to us. And I'm just like, why the fuck are we wasting time on any of this? So that's it. That's Paranormal Activity Ghost Dimension. I'm definitely gonna watch the last one tonight. As if this movie wasn't torturous already. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch the next one for sure. So, yeah, I'm gonna watch the next one. I hope it gets better. It might not. I don't know. I'm here for the ride though. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, y'all. Yeah, man. I don't know. This is just it's a wild ride for sure, and it was a steep drop off from the marked ones. So, Ghost Dimension is what it is. I don't know. I know this was directed by Gregory Plotkin, but I don't know. I don't know if it's the same writers or not. Hold on, I'm just gonna quickly check because like the writing clearly did not feel consistent at all. So that's why I'm like, okay, maybe these were just like completely different writers straight up, and that's exactly what I'm looking for right now. And I was right. This is clearly like these are different director, different writer, and different story editor, or I guess story created by. Yeah, it's all different. That's crazy. None of them, I mean, except for Oren Peli and Jason Blum coming back to produce it, but they only just produced it. I am fucking blown away. I am blown away by how steep of a drop off this film truly, truly was. And it came out the day before my birthday in 2015. I just turned 20. That's crazy. Yeah, so that was 2015 Paranormal Activity Ghost Dimension. And the latest one came out in 2021. So I'm curious where that goes. Yeah, I hope it's better. The title is Next of Kin. I don't know if this is just a completely different storyline. If it is, I mean, fuck it, we'll see where this ride takes us. But yeah, that's been it, you guys. Lots of thoughts, and you know, just just um just trying to make sense of it all together. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the pod, to this episode. Stay out of trouble, drink plenty of water, double knot your laces, don't talk to strangers, and stay inside, you guys. It's a little chilly outside. If you're here in Texas, it's a little chilly. It's a little cold. Time to stay nice and cozy, you know? All right. I got to go, y'all. See ya. And yeah, we'll see ya. Okay, bye.